Morning. I'll call this meeting to order for the Desert Water Agency Board of Directors, January 21st, 2025. Just a reminder for people in the room, if you have an electronic device, please mute it. For those who are participating remotely, please mute your microphone until or unless you're ready to speak during public comment. The information for attending this meeting virtually is provided on the agenda, which was posted. And with that, we'll move to, I will call on directors in the following roll call order. Director Gracia, Director McKenna, Secretary Treasurer Bloomer, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega, and all votes will be conducted via roll call. And with that, we can move to item number 2 and ask Vice President Bowman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is our roll call. Ms. Baca, could you conduct that, please?
Director Gracia,
Present.
Director McKenna,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer's absence is noted, and Vice President Bowman,
Here.
and President Ortega.
Present. Thank you. Item 4, public comments on items not on today's agenda. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments at the board meeting that are within the jurisdiction of the board and the agency, but not necessarily on today's agenda. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and as provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items that are not listed on the agenda. Ms. Baca, have we received any public comments prior to the meeting?
No comments have been received.
Okay. Do we have members of the public that would like to speak at this time, either approaching the podium or notifying themselves via the raised hand on the virtual platform? And seeing none, we can move to item 5, public comment on items listed on today's agenda. Again, this would be an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are listed on today's agenda. And again, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on items on today's agenda? Not seeing any. We'll move to the next item, which is our consent calendar, item 6. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion of the board without discussion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a board member requests a specific item to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Are there any items on today's consent calendars that my fellow directors would like to discuss separately?
I would like to pull item A, the approval of the minutes for the January 7th meeting.
Very good. Any other items?
Could we pull item B as well? I had a question on that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we'll start then with discussion on item A, approved minutes of the January 7th, 2025 regular board meeting. Director Gracia?
Yes, as you know, I was not able to attend the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I noticed that on the agenda, my absence is noted but not excused, and I would like Mr. Riddell to chime in, maybe give us a lesson on the difference between absence noted and the absence excused. As I understand it, unless the absence of a director is excused, it counts against his, you miss 2 more and you're out.
No.
And is that right?
No, no, that's not correct. You're thinking of a law that says that a director's failure to discharge his duties for 3 months can create a vacancy. But being absent from a meeting is not a failure to discharge a director's duties.
That's interesting. I had been aware for quite some time that if the absence was not indicated as being excused, that if you miss 2 more and those 2 following meetings are not excused, then you're automatically removed from your position. I just wanted to clarify that. It's not, apparently not the case, and I stand corrected. But I thought it was important to raise the issue so that everybody was dealing on it with the same set of understandings. I'm grateful to be corrected on that. Thank you.
And if I could make one more comment, I would worry a little bit about imposing a requirement that the absence be excused, because it would create the impression that if it's not excused, then that counts as one of the three, and it appears to impose a requirement that really does not apply. So,
Great,
I-
great,
right.
interesting. Thank you.
Okay. 6B, receive and file minutes of the January 16th, 2025 Executive Board meeting. Director McKenna.
Yeah, I noticed it says in the minutes that the committee provided changes to the executive and finance committees, and I don't know of any changes to the executive committee that were reported. Have there been any?
Not that I'm aware of.
I believe that's for the alternate positions.
Ah,
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thanks.
all right. Thank you for the clarification. So we can move to action items, which is 7A, request board authorization to call.
I think we have to
Sorry.
we need to move.
You absolutely are right. Thank you.
I think
So with that, with those clarifications, I will look for a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
So move, we accept the consent calendar as presented. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Thank you. I have a first from Director Grasha and a second from Director McKenna. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So 7A, request board authorization to call for bids for constructing the AMI standalone towers project. Okay, Mr. Moloch, thank you.
Good morning, Director Ortega, members of the board. I'm here this morning to request board authorization to call for bids for constructing the AMI standalone towers project. The 2024-25 capital improvement budget includes capital project 231025M00, which is for automatic metering infrastructure for the fixed network project, which has a total budget of $1,201,000. This budget includes engineering, construction, inspection, the equipment purchase, installation, overhead costs for standalone towers to support the network collectors and repeaters. Installation of these towers will allow the agency to complete the fixed network infrastructure component of the larger AMR infrastructure project, which is included in the agency's DWA 2.0 Technology Enhancement Initiative. The larger project allows the agency to collect meter reads remotely from the operations center and allows customers access to more granular data through the internet and software interface. This first phase of the AMI standalone tower project to be sent out for bid is for the purchase and construction of 13 standalone towers and their concrete foundations. After these towers are installed, our operations department will be installing the AMI devices, the collectors and repeaters on those towers. A second phase to fill in any gaps in the coverage area would include additional towers. There's a map included that shows kind of the coverage area for both those phases. And with authorization to call for bids being granted today, the bid opening for the project is tentatively scheduled for February 25th, with the contract award scheduled for the board meeting on March 4th. And staff anticipates the construction to begin in April or May, with completion expected in July. Engineers' construction cost estimate is $180,000 for the construction of the towers and foundation, and a total of approximately $200,000, including inspection and miscellaneous agency costs. And that will come from the $1,201,000 capital project 231025M00. Grant funding has been secured for the AMI project totaling $875,000. We expect approximately $143,000 of the $200,000 for this tower project to come from that grant funding. Finance Director Sands has reviewed this report. And staff recommendation is request the board's authorization to call for bids for constructing the AMI standalone tower project. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. Director Gracia, do you have questions?
Well, I do have one question. On the subject of the grants, was that a grant that we pursued in-house from our staff pursued, or how'd
Yes,
that?
that is correct. That's from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. We pursued initially for the first phases of the project about $500,000 and an additional amount to this project as well. And that has all been applied for and pursued in-house.
Thank you. That's
All
it?
right. All right, Director McKenna.
Are all of these towers on agency-owned property already, or is?
That is correct. All these towers will be on agency-owned property, primarily well sites, some reservoir sites.
And do we need city permits for these? Or have we got that in hand?
City permits for
Yes.
these?
Yeah.
We do not need city permits for these.
Okay, good.
All right. Vice President Bowman?
No comments, but this is a very exciting project, one that I know staff have been working hard to put together, and it'll help our customers understand their bills, especially if all of a sudden they fill their spa and they get a notice the next day, or maybe they didn't fill their spa and it's a leak. So this is a good project.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. So looking at the map, and you have these fill-in towers, it looks like there might be a handful of them. Those will be done, I assume those will be done after you've had the initial setup and you've been able to see how this coverage is actually working? You anticipate you might need these, but you don't necessarily know that, right? Right? So there may be additional costs associated with more towers or may not be. Yeah. And once this project is supposed to be completed, or you think it'll be completed in July of 2025, then what happens?
So after the towers are installed and erected, our operations department will install the actual collector and repeater electronic devices on those towers. Then there will be a sampling period where we do test runs on collecting the metering information from those collectors and repeaters. See, to your earlier question about how the coverage is, are we missing spots here and there? And do we need to install this additional phase of towers to make sure we're collecting everything?
Mm-hmm.
Once we confirm that, then we would come back to you as necessary for those additional towers, if we deem those necessary, and then run that process again and make sure we're collecting everything. And then I assume after that, when we've got everything squared away, then would go live.
Yes, after all of the towers have been installed, the collector repeaters have been installed and verified, then we will be doing we have our new billing system that's going live here in the next couple of months. And so with that in place and these collector repeaters in place, then we'll be able to merge the two together and start using those live meter reads and more frequent meter reads in our new billing system, and then be able to expand the visibility to our customers. So there'll be another little mini implementation to integrate the two together as another phase of our billing upgrades.
Go ahead.
I would just add that we do have some existing
Mm-hmm.
towers that we're going to put in. I think 3 or 4 of them, we're going to run those even before these towers are fully erected, just to see kind of how it's working and everything's
Mm-hmm. So what's a realistic time for this project to go live with our customers?
do not have that information with me. I would need to talk with our implementation consultants to find out, once we have that live, how long it would take to get it integrated and available to the customers.
Okay.
To chime in on that,
Mhm.
maybe, how long do you think it'll be before we're doing beta testing, where you might have an app that's operating in a test pattern for yourselves to, I mean, is that something that's on the horizon?
Again, that's something that I need to check in
Okay.
with our project managers on the project here internally, as well as with Tyler Technologies as our implementation consultants for that program. So, but
That
we
answers
can
the
look into
question,
that.
I guess, then you're not there yet. I thought maybe we're there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else? No? I'll look for a motion then from one of my board members.
Move item 7 as recommended by staff.
Okay, I have a first.
And I'll second that.
Great. I have a first from Director Gracia and a second from Vice President Bowman. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item, 7B, request board authorization to enter into a maintenance contract for unanticipated electrical upgrades at the recycled water facility. Mr. Sarpong. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. President Ortega, members of the board. I appreciate the time you give me here today to talk about upgrading our motor control centers and switchgears at a recycled water plant. And I'll start with, back in November, we had a member of the operations department involved in an arc flash. Arc flash is an electrical explosion. This explosion took place at the recycled water plant while they were conducting routine maintenance on one of our motor control panels. The technician received minor burns to his hand. He was able to receive immediate medical attention and was able to return back to work the next day. As for the equipment he was working on, it was destroyed to the extent that the plant's been down since November 19th. After the incident, we isolated the area and I contacted Tesco Controls. They're a company that we've used in the past to do all of our arc flash assessments and to also produce our electrical safety program. I called them to get an inspection of the arc flash done, and they also recommended at that time that we add additional PPE, personal protective equipment, when operating all electrical disconnects in our system. Okay, on December 3rd, Tesco Controls sent the electrical engineer to do his assessment of the arc flash, and he found out
Is this?
So during the investigation, they found that the cause of the arc flash was due to a mechanical failure in the panel. Mechanical failure in the panel. When the operator operated the switch, a wire came loose and made contact with the backplane, causing the arc flash. Number 2, the injury was caused by the design of the operating handle. The handle was designed with a gap in the center of the handle. So once the operator operated the handle and the arc flash happened, that flash was able to exit through the gap and make contact with his hand. 3, they found that the switchgear, which is our physical connection to Edison, was either faulty or it failed during the arc flash. Their final conclusion was that all of our motor control centers for the effluent side plus the switchgear would need to be replaced. They also recommended at that time that we start doing something called enhanced maintenance, and that entails certifying all of our electrical disconnects. I am currently working with a company named ERS, Electric Reliability Services, to start that process at all of our sites. And until that time, we're going to continue to use additional PPE while operating those electrical disconnects. We are currently testing all of our equipment at the reclamation plant last week. We were testing our backwash pumps and we found that 2 of our backwash VFDs had failed as a result of the arc flash. We received quotes for the replacement and installation costs, and that tallies around $30,000. And mind you, additional testing will take place once the plant is back online. So we may find that other items have failed due to the arc flash. As far as the replacement cost, we've received 1 quote from Tess Electric. We've used them in the past to do installations for well 22 Chino boosters, well 36, and we also use them for troubleshooting. And their quote for the upgrade and the installation of the components would be just over $240,000. Okay, because $240,000, but it will take about 9 months to receive the items, an additional month to install. So we're talking about maybe around the end of December to get the plant back online. Now, due to those long lead times, we will have to continue to serve our recycled water customers potable water. And we are currently serving them through our backup connection that's equipped with a backflow device. The scene has also been asked to use their irrigation well while our plant's down. Fiscal impact. The required equipment to get our plant back online and all additional costs is an estimation around $319,000. This includes Tess Electric's quote of $240,000. In addition, we will have contingencies totaling around $78,000 for wire and other components that may have failed due to the arc flash. Okay, this upgrade was not a part of the 2024-2025 budget, but because now the plant will be down until next November, we have the opportunity to save money on chemicals, electricity, and maintenance. Okay, so the operating budget for the 2024-2025 for the recycled water plant should be able to cover the costs of upgrading all the components needed. Recommendation. Staff requests board authorization to enter into a maintenance contract for unanticipated electrical upgrades at the recycled water facility with Tess Electric in the amount of $241,456.88 to replace electrical components. Now, with that said, are there any questions about anything I covered this morning?
Thank you.
Thank you. As someone who's been electrocuted, I feel for him. I hope that he recovers and continues on his path. I didn't hear, did I miss at the first part of your presentation, was this an attempt to lock out the service so that work could be done, or did
Exactly. He opened up the switch so he can start working in the panel.
Oh. That's it? No more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director McKenna?
I think in the 2 years I've been on the board, this is the most worrying thing I've seen. You characterized it correctly. An arc flash is an explosion. And this one, most of the material exited through the side. But if it had gone through the front, we'd have a badly disfigured or dead employee. So even though there's a warning on this about personal protective equipment, it is a must-have. Full face mask, fireproof clothing, and another person at least more than 6 feet away. These are extremely dangerous events. Can I ask you, do we have any aluminum conductors in this system? Do you know?
Some of our wires and connectors are aluminum, yes.
Okay, now they're particularly prone to arc flash because aluminum has a high coefficient of expansion when it heats and cools, and they heat and cool as they are loaded and unloaded. They work themselves loose. So we need a program for tightening them regularly, and that needs to be in place. Otherwise, we could have another one of these. But definitely, more precautions are needed for safety. And I hear you say that you're going to do it, but there are warnings on this panel about PPE. So if this employee didn't have gloves on, that's a miss. This is a near miss, I think. And it should inform us, all our safety precautions here forward. It's easy to think, oh, I'm just pulling a switch, but this is a very dangerous event. And I would like us to be very, very well informed in future of all our employees should be aware of how dangerous this is. Yeah, not just pulling a switch, it's like a landmine. So, of course, I support what you're doing, and I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I just wanted to say, this is scary, so let's take note. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
I agree with Director McKenna. It is scary, and I'm happy that it appears that you are tracing backwards for any other possible problems that this might have caused. And when did when did this happen again? Was it
November 19th, sir.
November 19th? I don't know, as a board member, wish I would have heard about it when it happened. And I realize it might be because of personnel issues, but this is serious.
Yeah, we wanted to bring the board all the information. We wanted the investigation so that we had enough information. So when we brought the information to the board, we could answer any questions that might.
Yeah, but it's good to know, my perspective, when something happens, realizing you don't have all the answers and you're going to do the due diligence to get it, but it's sort of after the fact. But I'm glad we're dealing with it now.
Okay, thank you.
I have
So,
one- I have one point of
okay.
clarification
Mhm.
on Director McKenna's observation about the stickers. The warning is PPE that you would wear while opening the panel, not operating the switch. So there's
Could you repeat that for me?
so the warning label is if you were to open the panel, not operate the switch. So that, just a point of clarification on that, one of the photos shows a warning. That's if you were to actually physically open the panel, not operate the switch.
Mhm.
We've added that enhanced PPE that they're going to be essentially wearing it while operating the switch now, which doesn't happen very often. But when they do, they will wear the PPE.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for the clarification. So we've been delivering potable water to our recycled water customers since the 19th or the 20th. And I presume we're delivering that at the recycled water rate and not the potable water rate.
That is correct. We have been delivering at the at the recycled water
Sorry,
rate
yes.
instead of potable.
Mhm.
You're correct. Which the cost of that is the cost of our RAC,
Mhm.
replenishment assessment fee, which is a fee that we charge ourselves anyways. So it's a fee that we would have incurred anyways. So it's at no additional cost to the agency.
And how does that affect Acena since we've asked them to use their well?
They will be paying the replenishment assessment rate for the third-party pumping on that private well. They are not being served at the recycled water rate.
Right, so they're essentially paying the same rate. They're just doing the work themselves as opposed to
Yeah,
us doing
well,
it for them.
they are different rates.
Yes.
I'm saying that
Okay.
in order for us to serve our recycled water customers, and when we do not have enough recycled water, we assess ourselves the replenishment assessment rate for the shallow water well. So that is an expense that we are incurring. When they're operating their own well, they are not paying the recycled water rate. They are paying the replenishment assessment charge through a different type of a charge because it is being produced through their well.
And so the net to them is what?
To them, that is $215 per acre foot. I don't have the conversion, how it matches up, but our program we had a few years back, we reduced our recycled water rate to be comparable to producing groundwater. That included the cost of the electricity, the energy to pump it, as well as the replenishment assessment charge. So they do not match up entirely. They will be bearing some individual expense, for the power to produce water from the well. And that when we did our evaluations, we did make it comparable. Now we've increased those rates over time as we've increased our replenishment assessment charge. So whether they're entirely in sync, I can't tell you that, but they are comparable.
Okay, thank you.
So did I hear right that this is going to take till November?
November, December, because of the lead time to receive all the components. And then 1 month for the installation of all the components.
And once you've had the installation of those components, you're going to do additional testing.
Exactly. We'll have startup, then we'll do additional testing on all the other systems that can't work right now, because now we'll be able to do other things.
And how many people do we typically have running the plant?
Well, I have 8 technicians that are usually there in and out. We have, when the plant's online, we have 1 technician getting reads, and then you have maybe 1 or 2 other technicians doing maintenance at the plant.
Are we able to redeploy them right now? Since I assume there's not much for them to do over there.
Well, there's a couple of things we're still testing. We're still draining our influent tanks, so there's certain things we can still do over there. But yes, it's given us additional time to do other things.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
When was this switch installed? Is that a 20-year-old switch, or since the 80s, I think this was built, system was
Yes,
built?
the switch, the install date for those panels was 1988.
Yeah. It's, even in 1988, they should have had well-insulated switches. I don't know if that's something you guys are going to look at, in terms of settling accounts on this or not, but I would think that that would be something you would want to look at.
Yeah, we've been steadily upgrading all of our equipment at all of our well sites and booster sites, replacing all the old panels with new panels with upgraded standards. So we're getting to it slowly but surely.
And as I understand it, what's happening at the plant specifically is to replace all the panels.
All the panels on the effluent side,
Right.
this would be the control panels for effluents 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the switchgear, which is our physical connection to Edison.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Then I'll look for a motion, please.
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
All right. I have a first from Vice President Bowman and a second from Director Grasha. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye. Excuse me, aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you for your
very
time.
Thank you. Right, discussion item 8A is a brand refresh, and I think that's Ms. Pena, is it not?
Yes. I will kick off and then toss over to Xochitl
Okay.
Peña, our Public Affairs Manager. But good morning, President Ortega, members
Morning.
of the board. Very quickly, while Xochitl's getting set up, by way of quick background, and Xochitl will dive further, but this is an item that was brought forth to the Public Affairs and Conservation Committee back in December, and the conversation at that point was to bring it forth to the full board for further discussion, and that is what we are doing here today. And with that, I will let Xochitl Peña, our Public Affairs Manager, go through the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, President Ortega and members of the board. Thank you, Victoria, for the background and introduction. So if you guys are ready, we can dive right into the presentation. I think. Yep, there we go. Okay, so as mentioned, we conducted a brand relaunch in the fall of 2024. We sent RFPs to 5 agencies, reputable agencies, by the way, that have done this work before, that we're familiar with. And we received proposals from all 5 agencies. As you can see, they're listed there. And so after a critical review and a scoring process, we selected CV Strategies, and we held a kickoff meeting on October 7th, 2024. We initiated this brand refresh to increase DWA's recognition and public awareness in the community and the greater Coachella Valley. And as you know, our current logo just says Desert Water. And while many of our customers and people in the community are quite familiar with who we are, um, there are still others who are not as familiar, and this is evident when we are at events. Sometimes we'll have our booth, our tablecloth, and all of our swag on there, but we still get people that come up and ask who we are and what we do, and sometimes they ask if we are a water bottling company similar to Sparklets. Um, and again, to reiterate, this is just a brand refresh. It is not a rebrand. It's not a complete overhaul. You can kind of think of it as like a facelift, if you will. Um, and the goal is to create a more engaging and refreshed aesthetic. And part of this refresh includes updating our logo and adding agency back to our name so there is no doubt who we are and what we do. So we did review 28 logo variations, and we provided lots of feedback to the consultant. In refreshing our logo, we did have some clear objectives, as you can see there. We know that there is brand equity in our logo. People do recognize certain elements of it. And so we definitely wanted to keep some of those foundational elements, specifically our water drop. You know, people recognize that. Um, but, you know, at the same time, we wanted to modernize and refresh it. And so by adding the word agency back, you know, we do feel that that helps create a more clear and concise message, and it avoids confusion for anyone who is unaware of who we are. And we also wanted to update the colors and font and increase flexibility. As you know, currently our logo is just horizontal, and that can be a challenge sometimes during the design process, you know, when we're using it in various situations. And so we know that we wanted to have both versions, a horizontal and vertical versions of our logo. So after reviewing all those variations and providing feedback, two logos emerged that met those objectives. It was important for us to involve DWA staff to have them be a part of the process. And so we conducted a survey among the entire DWA staff to identify the preferred logo. We sent out a survey. It was open for 2 weeks. And the results were incredibly close, almost even. And so here you can see logo option number 1. There is a horizontal and a vertical version. And then we included a photo so you can see what it looks like on a staff shirt. And again, you can see that the water drop is very similar to our current logo, but we've added our DWA acronym there, and also, you know, included our full name, Desert Water Agency. And, you know, we feel it's both modern and fresh. And here is logo option number 2. You can see the horizontal version, and there are 2 vertical versions. And again, the photo, so you can see what it looks like on a shirt. And so this one was just inspired by our current logo with the emphasis on desert water, but it still includes the word agency. So, so it's clear who we are. This one is a bit more colorful, kind of, you know, it could stand out a little more, which is great when we are partnering, co-branding with other organizations. So here are the results. As you can see, it was almost even. It would have been a tie if someone that had voted for option 2 had gone the other way.
Which one, so those 2 are the 2 top vote getters? Option one, option two?
Yes, after reviewing all of the variations, those were the two that emerged as our favorites. And so we shared the two with the entire staff. And these are the results of the survey. And we wanted to also provide some examples so you can see the various ways that we use our logo. In this example, you can see these are our CV Water Counts partners logos all lined up as you would see on the CV Water Counts website and also on various material. And the top example is our current logo, followed by option number 1, number 2, and this is the vertical version of the two proposed logos. And here is an example of one of our most recent Instagram posts. We were a sponsor of the film festival, and so we gave away swag bags, DWA swag bags with Film Fest tickets. And here you can see our horizontal logo in the middle with the vertical logos on either side. And, this is an example of how having a vertical logo can be beneficial and helpful in certain social media posts. And here's just another example. Again, as far as the design goes, this kind of shows how we often have to work in very constrained spaces. And so having logo options is very beneficial, especially when it comes to social media. And so that is the presentation. Please
Thank
let me
you.
know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Well, before we move to questions, I just want to say that this is a discussion item, an action item. And we did talk about this at our meeting in December for Public Affairs and Conservation Committee. And I asked that it be put on the agenda for, one, to bring the board up to speed on what was happening and also to solicit some input. But I really honestly believe that this is a staff job and not really the board's job. So with that, Director Gracia.
To start off, I want to say I wrote a very stern letter in opposition to doing this, but I must admit that there are times when you need to have flexibility. In fact, last night I spent 5 hours on this item. And, as a child growing up, there were, in Anaheim, we had Disneyland, which was a pretty big deal. And the Chamber of Commerce decided they needed a figure or a logo to match Mickey Mouse. So they created a figure called Andy Anaheim. And Disney Studios in 1954 drew Andy Anaheim. And there is a Facebook page dedicated to Andy, and all of the various ways Andy was used throughout history in Anaheim for virtually every department. They had a variation of Andy for everything from the Halloween parade to the electric water utility bill, and it was actually quite entertaining to go back in time because I remember seeing that little figure. Anyway, it was a big deal to create that and to continue to this day the use of that little logo. But there must be 100 different versions of it. So I don't really have an issue with the different versions. But when you're talking about Palm Springs, they like to say that it's like no other place. And we have a very active arts community. And my fear is that they'll feel slighted by being left out of this discussion. And if that happens, I want it to be on record that I had hoped that we would have included the community in this process more early on than simply a casual mention during a committee meeting that the process was starting. But having said that, I'm looking forward to hearing other directors and their opinions on which one they like best, because I have a favorite, and I don't want to be the one to pick, so, because I'm still against doing it this way, but you guys can go ahead with it.
Well, thankfully, it's not up for us to pick. So, Director McKenna.
I think it should be up to us to pick. But having said that, I like option 2. It looks clean and modern. I still feel we're kind of lumbered with the agency name the state gave us. It causes confusion. You know, do we arrange travel? But yeah, option 2 works for me. I think the board should be considering it and approving it, but not having been given that authority, I'll just comment. I like option 2.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
Aren't you having fun with this? Yeah, there's opinions from all sides. I think you've done a good job in recasting the familiar, and whatever you guys decide, I'm good with. I happen to appreciate the DWA because that's often how we're talked about and known, and I think it then is highlighted next to it with Desert Water Agency. But either way, you've asked the whole room, you're going to get a whole room of different opinions. So anyway, that's where I'm at, but I think you've done a masterful job, and I think the idea of going vertical is primo, both ways.
Yes, that's important. It would be a vertical and horizontal, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't really have a preference one way or the other. I do appreciate your point about the DWA component, that there may be some additional benefit to having that, and certainly the 2 different options, regardless of which direction ends up being pursued. So with that, thank you very much for your time and for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to add one other thought on the subject of,
Okay.
there was a time, it doesn't seem like that long ago, where I think, driving by the building, and it seems like it was only 5 years ago, and I noticed that the word agency had been dropped from whatever it was I saw. It struck me long before I had developed an interest in all this. And I thought, I wonder why they did that. And I thought, oh, they're trying to, soften the image of the agency. So I went back on the Wayback Machine on the website, looking for when it may have changed on the website. Well, the website was created in 2006, and the word agency wasn't there then. So I don't know why I was clocked, at some point in time with the thought that that word agency had been dropped. But in modern history, which is the internet, I guess, it's always not been there. So there you have it on that little very interesting look back in history.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the current logo that we have was early 2000s under General Manager Ainsworth was involved with that. So it's been at least around 25 years.
All right. Thank you.
So sorry if
Yes?
I may as well, President Ortega. One of the reasons why we wanted to bring agency back as well for everything that Sochi has mentioned is that there are other companies known as Desert Water. For example, that water bottling company comment is funny because in Yuma, Arizona, there is a company that bottles water named Desert Water. And so we want to make sure that our brand, that our agency, it's very clear kind of who we are and what we do. And also on our website, just to note, there is, my DWA, there's mention of DWA, but there's never what the A stands for. And so that's also one of the factors that's driving a portion of the reband is clarification and making sure that there's consistency as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8B, net zero energy plan discussion. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, President Ortega. This is just a real quick update. We are in the process of writing the RFP, and we plan to have a draft for the board at our second meeting in February for review to ensure that we're hitting the points that the board would like to see in the RFP. And just wanted to let you know that we are in the process of writing that document.
Okay, thank you. Director Grasha, do you have any questions for?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank the board for deciding to move ahead with looking into this. There are many, many facets, as you know, to this. And I wanted to make sure that as we progress, that we include in the discussion an equal emphasis on I was thinking about in one case, there was this legal problem that I see potentially interfering with, and that is, I believe, strict liability comes into play when you take an action that might, at some point in the future, eliminate your ability to provide the water service. I don't know if this would fall into that or not. I think it would. I know that I had one acquaintance who owned a house in Yorba Linda when there was a fire, and the agency was not able to provide water to the firefighters. There were only 16 homes up on that hillside, and they all burnt because they couldn't pump water up the hill. The tank, just like what we had this past week in LA. So I want to make sure that any discussion that we have, we keep in mind that we need to have an equal amount of discussion on the side of, we have long-standing obligations. We're the biggest energy user in the city, certainly. And we have long-standing commitments with Edison, and it's important that we keep that in mind, that we have to be able to, under all circumstances, be able to pump water up those hillsides. So with that, I thank you, and I'm looking forward to hearing all of the advantages to the process as well. But in my lifetime, I've only had one superior that had the ability to fire me from a job. And, and when that happened, he went on to become vice president of Southern California Edison. And I had an occasion to chat with him recently about, I was 20 years old when I worked for him. I think he was like 24. He was a lawyer. And his boss and he retired from Edison and ended up serving in Long Beach City mayor and so forth. Anyway, it was their administration at Edison that created the ability to employ solar systems and created the advantages to putting these things in play. And since their departure, I guess Edison is realizing that there's some downside to having too much solar and their ability to keep their system running and financed. So there's all kinds of angles to all this, and I just hope we're fair to both sides on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McKenna.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you on moving this along. Let's not rule anything out on these RFPs. Let's keep it as broad as possible for these people submitting proposals to give us good ideas, their ideas. And let's also bear in mind that this is an opportunity to cooperate with CVWD and IID. I think there could be a regional network possibility here. So I want to keep the door open for that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
None from me, thank you.
Nothing else from me. So with that, we can move to item 9, which is our general manager's report. Mr. Johnson.
All right, thank you, Director Ortega. The first item is just want to provide a summary of the power that we generated last year, 2024. And for Whitewater, we ran through that hydro plant just over 290,000, actually 290,000 acre feet of water was delivered to the basin. And we ran around 66,000 of that through our Whitewater hydro plant. That plant also operated 206 days out of the 272 days that water was delivered, so that's around 75% of the time. And we shut that plant off typically because of high winds. That's why we shut the plant down. When high winds occur, the plant, the electrical system up there is unreliable, and therefore that causes our plant to shut down, which causes some problems in the channel that Coachella Valley Water District does not like. When there's a flow change in the channel, there creates a silt issue, which causes their settling basins to have problems that they have to go in and muck the silt out. They like a continuous flow. So when we know that there's going to be these high power events, that's when we'll just shut the plant down, let the water not have this, let it slowly graduate into that transition versus just a abrupt shutdown. And we generated just over 4.6 million kilowatt hours of power with that plant, and that resulted in $422,000 in revenues that we do split with CVWD. And for Snow Creek Hydro, again, it's a much smaller plant, but we did run just over 2,100 acre feet of water through that plant, generating 1.1 million kilowatt hours of power and just over $105,000 in revenue. And that's our plant, and we don't share that revenue with anyone but ourselves. And we just wanted to highlight, we provided this graph with you for Snow Creek. It's interesting, in the early 2000s, around 2001, 2002, just to give you a brief history of that area, that's when we started experiencing some illegal activities up on the mountain, causing some water quality issues, which would require us to take that plant out of service. And as you can see, from about 2002 through about 2021, very low generating issues. And most of that was, I would say, caused by either the water quality issues from what was happening up on the mountain, or we had some heavy-duty storms. Then we built our filtration plant in 2022, and you can see very steady the past 3 years. And those are the blue bars that we're looking at. That's Snow Creek. So we just wanted to highlight too that since we've had our filtration plant in there, therefore water quality is not a issue running through our hydro plant. And so we are anticipating to generate a more consistent power in Snow Creek now with our filtration plant in service. Are there any questions on that report there? I know that's okay. All right. Our next item here, just we are doing a refresh of our artwork throughout the agency. As you can see, we have some new photos in this room here. They're very vibrant. They're a metal photo on metal. And as you can see, very vibrant, and all of our facilities are located here. And we're doing that throughout the building. Our other photos were we had some posters of Mets facilities. We had some posters of maybe just desert landscape, and they did not highlight our facilities. So that's one thing we really wanted to focus on was DWA facilities. And as you can see in the different examples here, there's our break room. We wanted to highlight our employees. So those are some photos of employees working and so forth. We have a beautiful, more kind of contemporary artwork of that orange. Those are some of our facilities. I'm not quite sure what plant that is, but that is a agency facility. We have the American flag. And then in our hallway, we have our filtration plant. We have our Snow Creek intake. And then in our lobby, as you enter into the lobby, again, just more of our facilities. Also a nice desert flower, but just wanted to highlight to the board that we are refreshing all of that. That's something that Victoria's group put together. Ernie, who's not in the room, he spearheaded this project and did a fantastic job. And on that, our next item on the report is our Employee Awards Breakfast. This is a breakfast we do every year, and the board is welcome to join. It's on January 30th. I believe, let's see, last year, Director Bowman, were you, or Director Gracia? I can't remember if either one of you were there, but it's a great event. We go over our accomplishments that we occurred in 2024. We'll discuss each department. We'll highlight what they did, and we have our breakfast, and the employees look forward to this, and it's a great event. The next item is our system leak data. Francis Drive, you'll see that there were 11 leaks on Francis Drive. That is not a typo. That was a small stretch of pipe that had a lot of different pinholes in it, and how we'll classify each pinhole as a leak. And as you can see, it had 11 separate holes in that pipe. We were able to fix that. We put some clamps on the pipe, but Francis is definitely, it was in 1957. It's an 8-inch main, and we'll be looking to probably add that, or at least a stretch of that onto our replacement pipelines fairly soon. We spent, as far as these leaks, spent just over 214 labor hours repairing those leaks. And we have our HR meetings and activities. Had some IT manager interviews. So that, again, that's for our IT department. We are looking to hire a manager. I believe we've finished our first phase of interviews, and there are a couple who have passed through that, and we're going to do our second phase, and hopefully we'll have an IT manager hired real soon. Is that correct, Ms. Hopping? Okay. As far as general manager's activities, we had our ad hoc technology transformation meeting on the January 14th, our executive committee meeting on the 16th. Also on the 16th, Aqua's senior regional affairs rep, Michael Cervantes, came here and met with management, met with me and assistant manager Tate and finance director Signs and public affairs director Victoria Lort. And we met with him, and he just wanted to introduce himself and get to know the agency a little bit more, and had a very productive discussion with him. And he asked regarding what some concerns of ours may be, and we discussed that, and I thought it went very well. And then I believe he headed up to Desert Hot Springs for Mission Springs. He went up to their event up there. And with that, be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Director Gracia, any questions for our general manager?
No questions. Just thank you for all the work you guys are doing. I know that no day passes where it's not a surprise, so thanks for handling it all.
Thank you. Director McKenna.
I have no questions. I hope to attend the employee breakfast this year. I missed it last year, so.
And Vice President Bowman.
None from me.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. So this breakfast, is there an actual time when it starts? It wasn't in your report, so.
I believe that starts at 8 a.m. if that's, yes.
8 to 10, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we can move to item 10, which is director's reports on meetings and events attended on behalf of the agency, and we'll start with Director Gracia.
Thank you. I think I have to go back to this. Well, I'll go back to December anyway, because I don't think I reported on because of my absence last. So from the meeting of the 17th, the Desert Water Board meeting, I attended after that the State Water Contractors meeting on the 19th. Then later in that day, on the 19th, I went through the ethics training through the Fair Political Practice Commission. And I think I have the record now for the longest training period. I had to go through it twice because the first time I logged in, it logged me into my old account at Mission Springs Water District. So they won't let you change it once you're logged in, so I had to do it again. So I did. So that was fun. I scored 100. So if you find me to be unethical, it's not because of my training. Then that takes us to the Desert Water Agency board meeting on the 7th. So now we're in modern times again. The Audit Finance Committee for the State Water Contractors meeting on the same day, January 7th. I was able to attend that because I was absent from the meeting on the 7th. That was a Zoom meeting, so I did chime in on that a little bit. And I also have that listed on the 8th. I don't know how I made that mistake. What's going on there? Then, feeling better, I did attend the legislative meeting of the Desert Valley Business Association, Builders Association. And that was a lively and educational meeting. And I must say, I think that if you're able to make that meeting, there is always something that's mentioned that I don't think you get anywhere else. And one of those things that came up, and I didn't really expand on it, but one of our golf courses, and I lived on it, next to it for years, and now the Desert Dunes on Palm is been shut down. And there's been some talk about maybe it being acquired by our own Oswett Land Trust here in Palm Springs. They sound like they're denying that they have anything to do with it. Anyway, the County of Riverside has had an interest in that property since I served on the MAC, a Municipal Advisory Committee. I was appointed decades ago by the Board of Supervisors to represent that area. And there was then a definite interest in that property for some reason, and that has redisplayed itself, I guess you could say. It's beginning to look like our county supervisor has an interest in acquiring it for the purposes of becoming a regional park for the county. And one of the meetings, I watched these city council meetings, religiously, and it came up as a question, I think at a Desert Hot Springs Council meeting, whether the city council would support that property becoming a county park. And I thought that was an interesting development. So if they're asking city councils for their input on it, I would say that, that's evidence that somebody's got their eye on it for that purpose, and perhaps being named, after a particular supervisor. So we'll see how that plays out. On the 14th, I attended the Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting, and that's always an important place to be. And then on the 15th, I went through IT training for Desert Water Agency. Then the 16th, State Water Contractors Board meeting. And then the Region 9 meeting on the 17th with Mission Springs Water District. I was happy to attend that and to participate in a few of the discussions and provide as much transparency as I could without being sued. And I think I accomplished that. So anybody that wasn't able to attend, I'll be happy at some point to share with you some of the things that happened on that event. And that brings us to today. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McKenna?
I will report that I completed my mandatory ethics training on January 8th, my mandatory anti-sexual harassment training on January 9th, and attended the technology committee on the 14th, and reporting from that, as always, great progress and stellar work being done on that project. That's it for me.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
I too attended the technology transformation on the 14th. The 15th, we had our principals meeting for the Agua Caliente litigation. On the 16th, executive committee meeting here. 17th, Regional 9 meeting, and it was a wonderful tour again of the Nancy Wright Reclamation Center, and I'm proud of our president being on that Regional 9 board. And lastly, the FPPC ethics training was done by me on the 19th.
All right, thank you. So I had two meetings, both related to Region 9. On Wednesday, the 15th, there was a meeting, a virtual meeting conducted by Michael Cervantes, who was mentioned earlier. regarding the restart of a communications task force for Region 9. Michael, who has been with Aqua for quite a long time and supported other regions in Aqua, and now supports regions 8, 9, and 10, commended the board of Region 9 and this particular task force for approaching this question of how to have better communication of what's going on within Region 9 to its members within the greater Aqua, and how much further along in terms of that, in that regard, that this Region 9 board has taken, and I'm happy to be now a part of that conversation. I also learned during that meeting that of the 400 some odd water agencies in California that are part of Aqua, 49 of them are part of Region 9. So that's a lot of agencies in one region, which I think, and given the scale in terms of the size of Region 9 for the 3 counties that are represented, although perhaps not as populous as some of the other counties, is quite large. And so having that communication vehicle, which is not meant to replace what Aqua is already doing, but to enhance what's happening within the region, I think is really important. And then on Friday the 17th, attended the Region 9 quarterly board meeting in Desert Hot Springs that was hosted by our friends at Mission Springs Water District. Got to have another tour of the reclamation facility, which this time was done in sequence as opposed to out of sequence, which kind of felt like what we did when we were up there for the ribbon cutting, since we had to go in smaller groups, and that made it a lot more understandable to me. It was also quite windy and quite cold, and some of us did not bring their newly provided Desert Water Agency jackets. And I was looking at myself, and I think also Director Gracia, whereas everybody else seemed to have the jacket, which was quite convenient for them. And then we had, of course, followed that tour of the facility, which, by the way, they're expecting to actually have up and running within the month, I believe, as they are finalizing the installation of their conveyance pipe, having now settled their right-of-way easement agreement with Southern California Edison. So we look forward to seeing that up and running come the end of February, I believe. That's their goal. And with that, we can now move on to item 11, which is director's comments and requests. Director Gracia?
Yeah, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your reelection as president. Sorry I wasn't able to be here.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job, by the way, under the circumstances. I think, so I applaud you for that. On the subject of the tour, I'm always interested in hearing more. As you know, I served on the board at Mission Springs, and I am the one that, we held hearings on that plant prior to authorizing its construction. Probably over a dozen board meetings were dedicated to taking testimony from various parties. During that time, the management had hired one of our consultants who I at the time believed to be unbiased opinion on the facts surrounding the need for the plant, where it would be located, and all those things. And it turns out that he wasn't unbiased, and that there was a $5 million payday for him if he convinced me to build that plant as a board member. Highly unethical. I believe it's criminal. They left out a great deal of information that would have made it a more fair presentation of the facts needed to be able to vote intelligently on that item. Nevertheless, I voted and made the motion to create, or to pass the resolution to build a plant based on the information that I believed was unbiased. It was not. And then to hear their public relations person tell the community during our little bus ride that they were very heartbroken that they were going to have to dump all that water into the Whitewater subbasin. That was never, ever once talked about during the process in all of those meetings. And that she somehow insinuated that they agonized over that. Well, I sat on that board during that time. It was never once mentioned.
Okay, can we wrap this up, please?
And for that reason, I felt it was important to point out some of the irregularities to the statements that were being made during those presentations to the Region 9 members. Also, on a more positive note, I want to thank you again. The work you guys are doing on Region 9, I remember when I first entered this, there really wasn't any activity, and now it's a full house, it seems like.
All right.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. Director McKenna.
Sustainability. I have a quote for you today from the former Prime Minister of Norway. She was instrumental in defining what sustainability is. Her name is Gro Harlem Brundtland. She said, "Every one of us is responsible for the future of all of us." So that's my thought for the day. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Bowman.
I thought the tour for the Nancy Wright plant was outstanding, and I didn't find any problems with what their staff was saying about anything that has been going on. I appreciate the hard work that they put into it, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. I have nothing further at this point, so it is 9:20. I'd like to, or a little after 9:20, I'd like to close this part of the public meeting and reconvene in closed session at 9:30. Thank you. Are we ready? Okay. Welcome back to the public portion of our meeting, and I can report that no actionable item was taken while in closed session, so we can adjourn the meeting for this week. Thank you, everybody, for attending and for staff support today.